"Can I dance with you?" asked the little girl at the father-daughter dance, "to the CEO who abandoned her mum 10 years ago." He's left in shock. Just before we start, this community spans every continent. Drop your city's name if you feel comfortable sharing. The grand ballroom of the Westfield Hotel sparkled with tiny lights that reflected off the polished dance floor like stars. Fathers in suits twirled daughters in frilly dresses to the orchestra's gentle waltz. Robert Anderson stood at the edge of the charity event, scotch in hand, surveying the scene with detached interest. As CEO of Pinnacle Technologies, his presence was expected at these fundraisers, though children's causes had never been his priority. "Mr. Anderson, could I have a word?" A colleague approached, and Robert nodded, grateful for the distraction from the sentimental display before him. As they discussed quarterly projections, Robert felt a small tug on his jacket. Turning, he found himself looking down at a little girl with chestnut hair and familiar hazel eyes that stopped his breath. Her pale blue dress matched the ribbon in her hair, and she stood with a confidence that belied her small stature. "Excuse me," she said clearly, extending her hand formally. "Would you dance with me?" Robert stared, momentarily speechless. Something about her eyes, the shape, the color, struck him like a physical blow. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," he finally managed. "I think you've mistaken me for someone else. Your father must be around here somewhere." The little girl's expression didn't waver. "No mistake. You're Robert Anderson, CEO of Pinnacle Technologies." She paused, then delivered the words that would shatter his carefully constructed world. "And you're my father." The room seemed to tilt. Conversations faded to a distant hum as Robert stared at the child claiming to be his daughter. A daughter he never knew existed. "That's not possible," he whispered, though even as the words left his mouth he recognized Sarah's features in the girl's face. Sarah, whom he'd left 8 years ago. "My name is Emma Grace Anderson," she continued, undeterred. "I'm 7 years old. My birthday is March 18th. My mom is Sarah Wilson. You left when she was pregnant with me." Robert's colleague discreetly stepped away, leaving him alone with this child who spoke with such startling directness. "How did you find me?" he asked, his voice barely audible over the music. "Google," Emma replied simply. "Plus, your picture was in Mum's old box. The one she thinks I don't know about." She glanced at the dance floor. "So will you dance with me? Just one dance, that's all I came for." Robert felt dozens of eyes on them now, including those of the event photographer. Tomorrow's headline flashed in his mind. "Tech CEO refuses dance with child at charity ball." "Just one dance," he agreed, setting down his glass with a shaking hand. As they stepped onto the floor, Emma placed her small hand in his. "I've been practicing," she informed him seriously. "Michael taught me." "Michael?" "Mum's friend. He takes me to father-daughter things sometimes." Robert felt an irrational surge of jealousy as Emma guided him through the basic waltz steps. She counted under her breath, concentrating with an intensity that reminded him painfully of himself. "Does your mother know you're here?" he asked suddenly. Emma's slight hesitation told him everything. "She thinks I'm at a sleepover with Madison." "Emma, you can't just—" "I had to meet you," she interrupted, "just once." As the music swelled around them, Robert caught sight of his reflection in the ballroom's mirrored wall. A successful man dancing with a little girl who had his eyes and Sarah's determined chin. A daughter he hadn't known existed until 5 minutes ago. A daughter who had sought him out. "Why now?" he asked. "After 7 years?" Emma looked up at him, suddenly vulnerable despite her composure. "Because I needed to know if you were real." Sarah Wilson paced her living room, phone pressed to her ear, fighting to keep panic from her voice. "Madison's mother swears Emma never arrived for the sleepover. She thought we had cancelled. Her free hand clutched Emma's teddy bear, the one constant in her daughter's life. "I'm driving around the neighborhood again," Michael Thompson replied, his deep voice steady despite the concern evident in it. "Did you check her search history on the iPad?" Sarah froze. "Hold on!" She rushed to Emma's room, swiping open the tablet. The browser history had been cleared, unusual for her 7-year-old. But the photo gallery revealed screenshots of an event page. Annual Children's Hospital Charity Ball at the Westfield Hotel. "Oh, God," Sarah whispered. "Michael, I know where she is." Across town, the orchestra finished its waltz. Robert guided Emma to the edge of the dance floor, his mind racing. The child, his child, looked up at him with an evaluating gaze that seemed impossible for someone so young. "You're taller than in the pictures," Emma remarked, "and you have more grey hair now." Robert's hand unconsciously touched his temple. 7 years will do that. 8, Emma corrected. "You left 8 years ago, before I was born." A waiter passed with sparkling cider, and Emma deftly snagged 2 glasses, offering one to Robert with practiced politeness that spoke of her mother's careful upbringing. "You shouldn't be here alone," Robert said, accepting the glass automatically. "Does anyone know where you are?" "I took an Uber using Mom's account," Emma explained. "The driver thought I was meeting my dad here." Her smile held a hint of mischief, which was true. Robert felt dizzy at her resourcefulness and the recklessness of her journey. "Emma, I need to call your mother." "Not yet," she pleaded. "I have questions first. Questions I may not have answers to." Emma studied him, head tilted. "Why did you leave Mom when she told you about me?" The directness of the question hit like a physical blow. Robert glanced around, acutely aware they were in public. "That's uncomplicated, Emma. I'm smart for my age. Everyone says so." "I'm sure you are, but this isn't the place." "Did you not want me?" Her voice remained steady, but her small fingers tightened around the glass. Robert crouched to her level, surprising himself with the instinctive movement. "Emma, I didn't know about you." Confusion crossed her face. "But Mom said she told you she was pregnant and then you left." The memories flooded back, that final explosive argument in their apartment. Sarah tearfully announcing her pregnancy amidst the wreckage of their relationship. Him walking out, believing it a desperate attempt to salvage what was already broken. "I didn't believe her," he admitted, the truth tasting bitter. "We were already separating, I thought." He trailed off, realizing how hollow any explanation would sound. Emma digested this. "So you didn't leave because of me? You just didn't think I was real?" Something like that," Robert answered, the inadequacy of his response hanging between them. Emma's expression brightened slightly. "That's better than you leaving because you didn't want me." Before Robert could respond, a commotion at the entrance caught his attention. Sarah stood in the doorway, Michael beside her, both scanning the crowd frantically. Even from a distance, Robert recognized the mixture of fear and fury on his ex-wife's face. "That's Mom," Emma whispered, suddenly looking her age, a child caught in wrongdoing. "She's going to be so mad." "With good reason," Robert replied, standing and instinctively placing a protective hand on Emma's shoulder. The gesture surprised them both. Sarah spotted them, her face paling. 8 years dissolved in an instant as their eyes locked across the crowded room. "You should go to her," Robert said quietly. "This isn't how any of this should have happened." Emma looked up at him, suddenly urgent. "Will I see you again?" Before he could answer, Sarah was pushing through the crowd toward them, her expression a storm of emotions that Robert remembered all too well. "I don't know," he answered honestly, "but thank you for the dance, Emma." What were you thinking?" Sarah's voice cracked with the strain of maintaining composure in the hotel corridor. "Do you understand how dangerous that was? Taking an Uber alone, disappearing without telling anyone?" Emma stood with her head bowed, but her posture remained unbent. "I just wanted to meet him." "You could have been—" Sarah broke off, unable to voice the horrors her mind had conjured during the frantic search. She crouched, gripping Emma's shoulders. "Promise me, you will never do anything like this again." "I promise," Emma whispered, tears finally welling. "I'm sorry I scared you." Michael hung back, giving them space while keeping a watchful eye on the ballroom entrance where Robert Anderson remained, observing the family reunion from a distance. Sarah hugged Emma tightly, then stood. "Wait here with Michael. I need a word with your father." As Sarah approached, Robert straightened his tie in an unconscious gesture of armor-donning. 8 years had been kind to her, he noted. The college girlfriend who became his wife now moved with a confident grace that spoke of hard-won strength. "Sarah," he greeted, his voice carefully neutral. "How dare you?" she hissed, stopping just short of him. "How dare you dance with her, speak with her, without calling me immediately?" "She only approached me 15 minutes ago," Robert defended. "I was trying to process the fact that I apparently have a 7-year-old daughter I never knew existed." Sarah's eyes flashed dangerously. "Don't you dare pretend you didn't know. I told you I was pregnant that night. And I didn't believe you," he countered. "We were already over, Sarah. I thought it was a last-ditch effort to— To what? Trap the mighty Robert Anderson?" Bitter laughter escaped her. "I tried to call you for weeks afterward. Your number was changed. Your assistant blocked me. Your lawyer delivered divorce papers that made no mention of a child." Robert's certainty faltered. "I instructed them to handle everything. I was opening the Singapore office." "Always the convenient business trip." Sarah's voice dripped with old pain. "She has your eyes, Robert, and your birthmark on her shoulder. A simple DNA test would have confirmed everything." The weight of 8 years of absence pressed on him. "I didn't know," he repeated, though the excuse sounded hollow even to himself. "Well, now you do," Sarah replied. "So what happens next is your choice. You can disappear again. You're good at that, or, he prompted when she didn't continue. Sarah looked back at Emma, who was showing Michael something on her small, beaded purse, her animated gestures a mirror of Robert's own mannerisms during business presentations. "Or you can be her father," Sarah finished quietly. "But understand this, if you choose to be in her life, it's not casual. It's not when it's convenient between board meetings. It's ballet recitals and science fairs, and being there when she has nightmares." Robert felt the foundations of his carefully structured life shifting. "I need time to think." "Take all the time you need," Sarah replied with practiced indifference. "We've managed 7 years without you. We'll manage more." She turned to leave, then paused. "She researched you for months, you know. Saved her allowance to buy the ticket to this event. Practiced dancing with Michael for weeks." Her voice softened fractionally. "Whatever you decide, remember she's the one who found you, not the other way around." As Sarah walked back toward Emma and Michael, Robert called after her. "How do I contact you if I—" "Emma left something for you," Sarah replied without turning. "Check your pocket." Confused, Robert reached into his jacket pocket and found a folded paper star. Opening it carefully revealed a phone number written in careful child's handwriting, and beneath it, "This is Mom's number. Call if you want to be my dad. Emma G. Anderson, your daughter." Robert sat in his empty penthouse, the paper star unfolded before him on the glass coffee table. 3 days had passed since the charity ball. 3 days of distracted meetings and sleepless nights. His executive assistant had noticed, diplomatically rearranging his schedule to accommodate his unusual distraction. The DNA test results lay beside the star, rushed through a private lab at considerable expense. 99.9998% probability of paternity. The clinical confirmation of what Emma's hazel eyes had already told him. He had a daughter. His phone chimed with Michael Thompson's third call of the day. Robert had been avoiding his VP of operations and apparent stand-in father figure to his daughter. The thought still jolted him, his daughter, his friend, playing father to his child. Finally he answered. "Michael." "About time," came the familiar voice. "We need to talk, Rob." "About Emma?" "Yes, about Emma. And Sarah. And the fact that you've been walking around the office like a ghost for 3 days." Robert sighed. "Come over tonight. Bring whatever files need my attention." "I'll bring scotch instead," Michael replied. "Files can wait." Hours later, 2 tumblers of Macallan 25 sat between them as Michael filled the silences Robert left. "She's extraordinary, Rob. Brilliant, stubborn, observant. Reads at a high school level already. Plays chess like a demon," pride colored Michael's voice. "She's got your analytical mind and Sarah's compassion." Robert swirled his untouched scotch. "How long have you been in their lives?" "Since the beginning," Michael admitted. "I ran into Sarah at the hospital when Emma was born. Premature but fighting, just like her mother." He leaned forward. "Sarah never asked for anything, Rob. Not money, not support. She finished nursing school with a newborn, worked double shifts. I just helped where I could." "While working for me," Robert observed, an edge in his voice. "Don't," Michael warned. "Don't make this about loyalty to you. You were gone. They needed someone." Robert conceded with a nod. "Does Emma have everything she needs?" Michael's hesitation was brief but noticeable. "Materially? Sarah provides well enough. Emotionally? She's been asking about you more this past year. Hence the mission to find you." "There's something you're not telling me." Michael set down his glass. "That's Sarah's place, not mine." A knock at the door interrupted them. Robert opened it to find Sarah, arms crossed, expression guarded. "Michael called me," she explained, stepping inside without waiting for invitation. She stopped short at the sight of the DNA results. "Was that necessary?" "For me, yes," Robert replied. "Come in, Sarah." She remained standing, declining his gesture toward the sofa. "Emma's been asking if you'll call." "I've been processing," he said, aware of how corporate the response sounded. "Well, process faster," Sarah snapped. "She's 7. She thinks your silence means she did something wrong by finding you." Guilt surged through him. "That's not what you intended," Sarah finished. "Intentions don't matter much to children, Robert. Actions do." Michael stood, gathering his coat. "I should go." "Stay," Sarah and Robert said simultaneously, then exchanged surprised glances. "Robert needs to hear everything," Sarah continued, "and I'd rather say it once." The gravity in her tone chilled him. "What is it? What's wrong with Emma?" Sarah sank onto the edge of the sofa. "Emma has a rare blood disorder, diamond black fan anemia. Her bone marrow doesn't produce enough red blood cells." The medical terminology hit Robert like physical blows. "Is it treatable?" "She has monthly transfusions, takes medications daily, but her body is becoming resistant." Sarah's clinical tone couldn't hide her fear. "She needs a bone marrow transplant. I'm not a match, neither is Michael." Understanding dawned with terrible clarity. "That's why she sought me out now." Sarah's eyes flashed. "No, Emma has no idea I'm here tonight. She found you because she's wanted to know her father her entire life," her voice caught. "But yes, we need to test if you're a match. It could save her life." Robert stared at the paper star, its edges worn from his handling. "When?" "The specialist can see you tomorrow," Michael interjected. "I've already cleared your schedule." Robert looked between them, his ex-wife and his friend, united in their concern for a child he'd only just discovered. A child who needed him in ways he couldn't have imagined. "I'll be there," he promised, the words feeling inadequate against the weight of 7 missed years and an uncertain future. The children's ward bustled with activity as Robert followed Sarah through corridors decorated with bright murals and twinkling lights. Every step felt surreal, this hidden parallel universe of childhood illness existing alongside his world of boardrooms and balance sheets. "Emma doesn't know why you're here," Sarah reminded him, stopping outside a room with construction paper stars on the door. "She thinks you're just visiting." "And if I'm a match?" Robert asked quietly. Sarah's expression softened marginally. "Then we'll explain everything together." Inside, Emma sat cross-legged on the hospital bed, a chessboard before her, Michael seated opposite. Her face lit up when she spotted Robert, though she quickly composed herself into studied casualness. "You came," she observed, moving a knight with deliberate precision. "Check, Michael." Michael groaned theatrically. "She's ruthless, Rob." "No mercy for an old man." Robert approached cautiously, noting the IV line disappearing beneath Emma's Wonder Woman pajama sleeve. "I got your message. Very professional. The star was a nice touch." "Origami," Emma explained. "I'm learning from YouTube. I can make cranes and frogs, too." She studied him openly. "You look tired." "Emma," Sarah admonished gently. "It's fine," Robert assured her. "I am tired. Work has been busy." Emma nodded knowingly. "Michael says you run a very important company that makes computers talk to each other." "That's surprisingly accurate," Robert acknowledged, with a glance at Michael, who shrugged innocently. A nurse appeared with a cheerful smile. "Mr. Anderson, we're ready for you now." Emma's gaze sharpened. "Ready for what?" Sarah stepped forward. "Robert just needs some tests, sweetie. Routine checkup." Emma's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "In the pediatric oncology ward?" Robert felt a surge of respect for her perception. No wonder she'd managed to track him down. "I'll be back soon," he promised, following the nurse. An hour later, Robert sat in Dr. Olivia Martinez's office as she explained the bone marrow donation process. The preliminary blood work showed promising compatibility, though final results would take days. "If you're a match, Doctor," Martinez explained, "the actual donation procedure takes about 2 hours. We use a special needle to withdraw liquid marrow from your pelvic bone." "And recovery time?" Robert asked, already mentally rearranging his calendar. "A week of soreness, perhaps 2 before you feel completely normal. And for Emma, if this works?" "Doctor," Martinez's expression softened. "The transplant is difficult. Recovery takes months, but success rates are good with familial donors." She studied him. "You just learned about your daughter, didn't you?" Robert nodded, unable to vocalize the complex emotions churning within him. "For what it's worth," the doctor offered, "Sarah is one of the strongest parents I've ever worked with. Emma is extraordinary. However you proceed from here, they've built something remarkable." When Robert returned to Emma's room, he found her alone, Sarah and Michael having stepped out for coffee. "Are you sick too?" Emma asked bluntly as he sat beside her bed. "No," he answered honestly. "Then why are they testing you?" Robert considered his options. "Emma, what do you know about your condition?" She sighed with the exasperation of one who'd explained this many times. "My bone marrow is lazy. It doesn't make enough red blood cells, which carry oxygen, so I get tired a lot. Sometimes I need other people's blood." She pointed to the IV. "Like today." "And has your mom explained about bone marrow transplants?" Emma stilled. "Those are for when the medicine stops working as well." Her eyes widened. "Are you getting tested to see if you can give me your bone marrow?" Robert nodded, struck by her quick understanding. "Does that mean the medicine is stopping working?" Fear crept into her voice for the first time. "It means we're exploring all options," Robert answered carefully. "Your mom is very thorough. Emma considered this." "If you matched, would it hurt you?" "A little," he admitted, "but not for long." "Would you do it, even though you just met me?" The question hung between them, simple yet profound. "Yes," Robert said, surprised by the immediacy and certainty of his answer. Without hesitation. Emma's small hand reached for his, her grip surprisingly strong. "Thank you." She paused. "Does this mean you're staying? In my life, I mean." Before Robert could answer, Sarah and Michael returned. The moment fractured, Emma's question lingering unanswered, as the adults exchanged meaningful glances over her head. Later, in the hospital corridor, Dr. Martinez approached with preliminary results. "We need more tests, but it's looking promising, very promising." "When will we know for certain?" Sarah asked, hope warring with caution in her voice. "By Friday," the doctor assured them. "If Mr. Anderson is a match, we can schedule the procedure for next week." As they walked to the parking lot, an uncomfortable silence stretched between them, until Robert finally spoke. "I'd like to see her again. Before Friday, if that's okay." Sarah studied him, searching for something in his expression. Whatever she saw made her nod slowly. "She has chess club tomorrow after school. 4 o'clock at the community center on Maple Street." "I'll be there," Robert promised. As he watched Sarah drive away, Michael clapped him on the shoulder. "For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing." "I'm not doing it to be right," Robert replied quietly. "I'm doing it because she's my daughter." The words felt strange on his tongue, yet undeniably true. The community center hummed with the concentrated silence of children in thought. Robert stood at the back of the room, feeling conspicuously out of place in his business suit among parents in casual attire. Emma sat at a board near the front, her brow furrowed in concentration as she contemplated her next move against a boy nearly twice her size. "She's the club champion for her age group," whispered a voice beside him. Robert turned to find Sarah, who'd apparently slipped in after him. "Been playing since she was 4. "Did you teach her?" He asked. Sarah shook her head. "Michael. He's played since college." The familiar twinge of jealousy returned. All these milestones, these skills, these aspects of his daughter's personality, shaped by another man while he'd been oblivious, focused on quarterly reports and market expansions. "Thank you for letting me come," he said, instead of voicing these thoughts. Sarah's gaze remained on Emma. "She asked if you would. That's the only reason." On the board, Emma executed a complex maneuver that left her opponent blinking in surprise. A small smile played at the corner of her mouth, an expression Robert recognized from his own mirror. "The test results came in early," Sarah said quietly. "Dr. Martinez called an hour ago." Robert's heart stuttered. "And? You're a match, a very good one." Relief and something more complicated colored her voice. "The procedure is scheduled for Monday if you're still willing." "Of course I am," he replied immediately. Sarah finally looked at him directly. "This doesn't erase the past 8 years, Robert. I know that. But," she continued, her voice softening fractionally, "it does change things. For Emma's sake, we need to establish some kind of relationship. Co-parenting, I suppose." The term felt both foreign and right. "I'd like that," Robert said carefully. "I know I have a lot to learn." Sarah's laugh held little humor. "You have no idea." Across the room, Emma executed a checkmate, her face lighting with contained triumph as she offered her hand to her opponent with practiced sportsmanship. She scanned the room and spotted Robert, her smile widening momentarily before she composed herself again. "She's trying so hard to be casual about you being here," Sarah observed. "She practiced what she'd say to you all morning." Emma approached them, chess notation book in hand. "You came," she said to Robert, echoing her greeting from the hospital. "I said I would," he replied simply. "Mom says you're a match," Emma continued, her direct gaze challenging him to prevaricate. "Yes," he confirmed, glancing at Sarah. "Your mother and I were just discussing next steps." Emma nodded seriously. "The bone marrow transplant." I've been reading about it. She held up her book. Not in this. This is just chess. I have medical books too. Of course you do, Robert murmured, increasingly awed by this child, his child. Are you scared? Emma asked unexpectedly. The question caught him off guard. About the procedure? About being my dad, she clarified, her voice matter-of-fact despite the weight of her words. Sarah inhaled sharply beside him, but remained silent, allowing him to answer. Yes, Robert admitted, crouching to Emma's level. I am. I've missed 7 years of your life. I don't know your favorite color or book or what makes you laugh. I'm afraid I'll disappoint you. Emma considered this with a seriousness that belied her age. Purple, the phantom toll booth, and Michael's dad jokes, even though I pretend they're not funny. She paused. Everyone's afraid of disappointing people they care about. That's normal. Her simple wisdom left him momentarily speechless. I have a recital next Friday, she continued pragmatically. You'll still be recovering, but you could come in a wheelchair if you wanted. Mom says it's important to keep doing normal things during treatment. The casual invitation, her extension of normalcy to include him, felt monumental. I'd like that very much, he managed. Emma nodded, satisfied. Good. I play the wizard in our dance. I have a purple cape. She turned as her chess coach called the group back for awards. I have to go get my trophy. As she walked away, Sarah let out a long breath. She's been planning that conversation for days. She's remarkable, Robert said, watching Emma accept a small trophy with dignity beyond her years. Yes, she is, Sarah agreed. And now you have a chance to know her. Don't waste it, Robert. He turned to face his ex-wife fully. Sarah, about the past, about leaving, there's something you should know. Sarah's expression closed immediately. Not now, not here. It's important, he insisted. The reason I left. Was it because of the call? She interrupted, her voice barely audible. Robert froze. You knew about that. I found out later. Much later. Pain flickered across her face. Michael told me after things got bad with Emma's condition. I should have told you myself, Robert acknowledged. I shouldn't have just left. No, Sarah agreed, you shouldn't have. She watched as Emma proudly showed her trophy to her coach. But that's the past. Emma is what matters now. Across the room, their daughter looked back at them. These two adults awkwardly navigating a new reality because of her. She gave them a small, encouraging wave. She's been waiting for you, Sarah said softly. Even before she knew she needed your bone marrow, she's been waiting for you her entire life. The weight of those words settled on Robert's shoulders, not as a burden, but as a responsibility he was finally ready to accept. I'm here now, he promised. And I'm not going anywhere. The morning of the bone marrow procedure dawned clear and crisp. Robert stood at his penthouse window, watching the sun rise over the city skyline. In 3 hours, doctors would extract the marrow that might save his daughter's life. The thought still felt surreal. His daughter, whom he'd known for less than 2 weeks. His phone chimed with a text from Emma. Good luck today. Don't be scared. The doctors are really nice. The simple message, sent from Sarah's phone, brought an unexpected lump to his throat. A child comforting an adult, her way of establishing connection on this momentous day. Michael arrived to drive him to the hospital. Nervous? He asked, as they navigated morning traffic. About the procedure? No, Robert replied. About everything after? Absolutely. One day at a time, Michael advised. That's how Sarah's handled everything since Emma's diagnosis. Robert nodded, then asked the question that had been haunting him. Why didn't you tell me sooner? About Emma? You've known all along. Michael's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Sarah made me promise not to. And after what happened with your father, you knew I would have come back if I'd known the truth. Would you? Michael challenged. You were building an empire, Rob. You left Sarah when she needed you most. I wasn't convinced a child would change that. The hospital loomed ahead, ending their conversation as they pulled into the parking structure. Inside, Emma waited in a wheelchair, her small frame dwarfed by hospital equipment. Her face lit up when she spotted Robert, though fatigue shadowed her eyes. "You came," she said, her customary greeting that now carried layers of meaning between them. "Of course," Robert replied, kneeling beside her wheelchair. "I promised." Dr. Martinez approached with warm efficiency. "Good morning, Mr. Anderson. We've prepared everything. Emma wanted to see you before you both go in for your procedures." "Can I ask something first?" Emma looked between Robert and Sarah, who stood protectively nearby. "Anything," Sarah assured her. "After this is over, and if it works." Emma hesitated. "Will we be a real family, like with Robert visiting on weekends and stuff?" The question hung in the air, weighted with hope and complexity. Robert met Sarah's gaze over Emma's head, an unspoken conversation passing between them. The past could not be erased, but perhaps the future could be rewritten. "Yes," Robert answered firmly. "We'll figure it out together. All of us." Sarah's small nod confirmed the promise. Michael stepped back slightly, his role in this new configuration uncertain but his support unwavering. Emma smiled, satisfied. "Good. Because I already told Madison you're coming to Career Day next month." Robert laughed, surprised. "Did you now?" "Tech CEOs are very impressive," Emma informed him solemnly. "Much cooler than Madison's dad who sells insurance." The tension broke as they all chuckled, momentarily united by this extraordinary child's matter-of-fact planning for a future she was fighting to have. As orderlies arrived to take them to separate procedure rooms, Emma reached for Robert's hand. "See you on the other side," she said, echoing a phrase she'd clearly picked up from medical dramas. "Count on it," Robert promised, squeezing her small fingers gently before letting go. Hours later, groggy from anesthesia and sore from the extraction site, Robert woke to find Sarah sitting beside his recovery bed. "It went perfectly," she said before he could ask. "They're transplanting the marrow now. Emma's doing well." Relief washed over him. "Thank you for letting me do this, for letting me be part of her life." Sarah's expression softened. "She chose you, Robert. I'm just following her lead." She paused. "Besides, some things are meant to be, even if they take detours along the way." 6 weeks after the transplant, Emma sat cross-legged on her hospital bed, a chessboard between her and Robert. Outside, autumn painted Central Park in fiery colors, visible from her room's window. Her hair was growing back in wispy patches, a side effect of the anti-rejection medications. "Check," she announced, moving her bishop with careful precision. Robert studied the board, impressed. "You've been practicing." "Michael brings his laptop when you're at board meetings. We play online." She adjusted her knitted purple beanie, a gift from Robert's executive assistant who had taken to sending weekly care packages. The mention of Michael still triggered a complicated mix of gratitude and jealousy in Robert. The man had been there for all the moments he'd missed, first steps, first words, first day of school. "Your move," Emma prompted, interrupting his thoughts. Robert moved his knight, deliberately setting up a teaching moment. Emma spotted it immediately, capturing his queen with a triumphant grin. "You did that on purpose," she accused. "Prove it," he challenged, enjoying her indignation. The door opened as Sarah entered with Dr. Martinez. The doctor's expression revealed nothing as she reviewed Emma's latest test results. "Well?" Sarah prompted, tension evident in her voice. Dr. Martinez smiled. "The numbers are excellent. The transplant is taking beautifully. Another 2 weeks, and Emma can continue recovery at home with weekly outpatient visits." Emma let out a small whoop, then composed herself with practiced dignity. "Does this mean I can go back to school after Christmas break?" "If things continue this way, yes," the doctor confirmed. After she left, Emma turned to Robert. That means you won't have to visit me in the hospital anymore. No, he agreed. I'll have to visit you at home instead. And take me to the park, Emma added. And the museum. And ice skating when I'm stronger. Robert exchanged glances with Sarah, who nodded slightly. We can arrange that, he promised. Later, as Emma napped, Robert and Sarah walked to the hospital cafeteria in companionable silence, a truce established through their shared focus on Emma's recovery. We need to talk about the future, Sarah said as they sat with coffee neither really wanted. Practical arrangements. Robert nodded. I've been thinking about that. I'd like regular visitation. Weekends, perhaps? Some holidays? That would work, Sarah agreed. Emma needs stability, but she also needs you in her life. She hesitated. There's something else. The medical bills. The insurance covers most, but not all. I want to help, Robert said immediately. Please, let me. Sarah studied him. This isn't about money, Robert. It's about commitment. If you're in her life now, you're in it completely. No disappearing when things get difficult. I'm not that person anymore, he promised. Aren't you? Sarah challenged gently. The call that made you leave 8 years ago. Would you make a different choice today? The question struck at the heart of their unresolved past. Robert's father's desperate call from the hospital, his mother's condition deteriorating rapidly. The impossible choice between his disintegrating marriage and his dying mother. The decision to leave without proper explanation, too overwhelmed to navigate both crises. Yes, he answered honestly, I would have found a way to handle both. Sarah nodded, accepting his answer without further comment. Emma wants to spend Christmas at home. I'd like you to join us for dinner that day, if you're willing. The invitation, carefully framed and limited, represented a step forward Robert hadn't dared hope for so soon. I'd be honored, he replied simply. As they returned to Emma's room, they found Michael reading to her from the phantom toll booth. He looked up, closing the book as they entered. Just getting to the good part, he explained. Don't stop, Emma protested. Robert hasn't heard this story yet. The three adults exchanged glances, navigating their evolving roles in this child's life. Then Michael reopened the book, continuing the story as Emma snuggled deeper into her pillows, content to have her expanding family together in one room. Snow fell gently outside the window of Sarah's brownstone as Robert rang the doorbell, gifts balanced carefully in his arms. The house was modest but warm, decorated with twinkling lights and handmade ornaments that spoke of years of Christmases he'd missed. Emma answered the door, her face alight with excitement. 2 months post-transplant, her energy was returning, though she remained thin and tired easily. Her hair had grown into a pixie cut that framed her face. "You're here!" she exclaimed. "Mum said we couldn't open presents until you arrived. Sorry I'm late," Robert apologized, stepping inside. Last-minute board call. Sarah appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a festive apron. "Merry Christmas, Robert. Dinner's almost ready." "Do." The formality between them had softened over the weeks of Emma's recovery, their shared concern creating a bridge across the chasm of their past. "Michael's in the living room," Emma informed him, taking one of the packages. "He's been helping me with my science fair project." Robert followed her through to a cozy room where a Christmas tree sparkled with colored lights. Michael stood to greet him, offering a beer. "Glad you could make it," he said with genuine warmth. The relationship between the two men had evolved into a cautious friendship. Michael had stepped back slightly as Robert took on more fatherly duties, finding a new balance that prioritized Emma's needs above any adult awkwardness. "Present time," Emma announced, settling cross-legged by the tree, with the enthusiasm of any 7-year-old at Christmas, despite her medical challenges. They watched as she unwrapped Robert's gift, a telescope with accompanying star charts. Her eyes widened. "Is this professional grade?" "Semi-professional," Robert clarified. We can set it up on your roof when the weather clears." "Michael, look!" Emma exclaimed, showing him the telescope's features. As the two examined it together, Sarah touched Robert's arm lightly. "Perfect gift. She's been obsessed with astronomy since reading about female astronauts." "I had help," Robert admitted. "My assistant researched age-appropriate models." Sarah smiled. "You're learning." Dinner was a surprisingly comfortable affair, the adults maintaining conversation around Emma's excited chatter about returning to school in January. "Only half days at first," Sarah reminded her. "Doctor's orders." "But I'll make it to the science fair," Emma insisted. "My project on bone marrow transplants is going to win first place." Robert raised his eyebrows. "Using your own experience as research?" "Of course," Emma replied matter-of-factly. "Primary sources are the most reliable." After dinner, while Emma showed Michael her new telescope by the window, Sarah handed Robert a small package. "From Emma and me," she explained. Inside was a framed photograph of Emma as a newborn, tiny in her NICU incubator. The second item was a USB drive. "What's this?" he asked. "Everything you missed," Sarah said quietly. "First steps, first words, birthdays. I kept digital albums. Emma thought you should have them." Robert stared at the gifts, emotion tightening his throat. "Sarah, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," she replied. "Just be here now. That's all that matters." Later, as Robert prepared to leave, Emma hugged him fiercely. "Best Christmas ever," she declared. "We're just getting started," he promised, realizing as he said it that he meant every word. On the doorstep, Sarah paused before closing the door. "Happy New Year, Robert. See you at Emma's doctor appointment on Thursday." "Wouldn't miss it," he assured her, watching as snowflakes gathered on her hair. For a moment he glimpsed the young woman he'd fallen in love with years ago, resilient, determined, kind, despite life's hardships. But the moment passed, and Sarah smiled politely before closing the door. Some bridges, Robert reflected as he walked to his car, took longer to rebuild than others. But for Emma's sake, and perhaps for their own, it was worth the effort. Spring arrived with a burst of color in Central Park. Emma raced ahead on the path, her energy fully restored after 6 months of recovery. Behind her, Robert and Sarah walked side by side, watching their daughter with shared pride. "Dr. Martinez says her latest tests are perfect," Sarah reported. "Better than they dared hope." "That's wonderful," Robert replied, his relief palpable. The fear of rejection or complications had shadowed them through the winter months, but Emma had proven as resilient in recovery as she was determined in chess. "She's invited half her class to her birthday party next month," Sarah continued, "including Madison, who's apparently forgiven her for the sleepover deception." Robert smiled. 8 years old. Hard to believe. "Try living through all 8, Sarah said, but her tone held no bitterness now. They'd established a routine over the months. Robert took Emma every other weekend and Wednesday evenings. He'd purchased an apartment 10 minutes from Sarah's home, converting the second bedroom into a space that reflected Emma's evolving interests: astronomy, chess, and most recently, computer programming. "I've been meaning to ask," Robert ventured. "About Michael." Sarah glanced at him. "What about him?" "What?" "I noticed he hasn't been around as much lately." A complicated expression crossed Sarah's face. Michael needed some space to figure out his role in all this. "I never meant to push him out," Robert said carefully. "He's been important to Emma, to both of you." "It's complicated," Sarah admitted. "For 8 years it was the 3 of us. Now it's different." Ahead, Emma had stopped to examine a butterfly perched on a flowering bush. The spring sunlight caught her hair, now grown into a bob that curled slightly at her chin. "I owe him a debt I can never repay," Robert said quietly. "For being there when I wasn't." Sarah touched his arm briefly. "He knows that." She hesitated. "There's something you should know about Michael and me." Before she could continue, Emma called out, waving them forward excitedly. "Dad! Mom! Come see this chrysalis!" The word Dad still sent a thrill of wonder through Robert each time Emma used it. The transition had happened naturally over the months of his involvement, moving from Robert to Dad without ceremony or discussion. They joined Emma by the bush, admiring the delicate chrysalis hanging from a branch. "It's a monarch," Emma informed them authoritatively. "We learned about metamorphosis in science class. Inside, it's completely breaking down and rebuilding itself into something new." Sarah and Robert exchanged glances over their daughter's head, the metaphor not lost on either of them. "Change can be beautiful," Sarah observed. "But it takes time," Robert added. Emma looked between them. "Are you guys talking about butterflies or something else?" "Both, maybe," Sarah replied with a small smile. Later, after ice cream and a visit to the Natural History Museum, Robert walked them back to Sarah's brownstone. Emma raced inside to call Madison about their butterfly sighting, leaving the adults momentarily alone on the stoop. "What were you going to tell me about you and Michael?" Robert asked. Sarah sighed. "Michael asked me to marry him last year before Emma found you." The revelation shouldn't have surprised Robert, yet it did. "And you said?" "I said I needed time," Sarah replied. "Then everything changed when Emma found you." She met his gaze directly. "He's a good man, Robert. He loves Emma like his own." "I know," Robert acknowledged. "Are you going to accept?" Sarah looked toward the door, where their daughter had disappeared. "I don't know yet. Everything's different now. We're all finding our way in this new reality." Robert nodded, understanding the complexity of their intertwined lives. "Whatever happens, Emma comes first. We agree on that." "Always," Sarah confirmed. She hesitated, then added, "Thank you, Robert, for becoming the father she always needed." As he walked away, Robert reflected on the strange journey that had brought him here. From isolated CEO to co-parent, from stranger to father. The chrysalis Emma had shown them seemed an apt symbol for them all, breaking down old structures to build something new and perhaps more beautiful. The ballroom of the Westfield Hotel sparkled once again with tiny lights, almost exactly 1 year after Emma had first approached Robert on this same dance floor. Now they entered together, Emma's hand tucked confidently in his as they made their way through the Children's Hospital annual charity ball. "There's Dr. Martinez," Emma pointed out, waving to her oncologist who was speaking with hospital administrators. At 8 years old, Emma carried herself with the poise of someone much older, her purple dress, her favorite color still, chosen specifically for this symbolic evening. The past year had transformed her from patient to advocate. She'd raised over $5,000 for the oncology ward through her school's charity drive, inspired by her own experience. "Mr. Anderson," called the event coordinator, "we're so pleased you increased Pinnacle's donation this year. The new children's wing will make such a difference." "It was the least I could do," Robert replied, meaning it. The past year had shifted his priorities dramatically. He'd restructured his work schedule, delegated more responsibility to his executive team, and focused Pinnacle's charitable foundation on pediatric medical research. As they circulated through the crowd, Robert noticed Michael entering with Sarah. Though initially awkward, Michael's presence at family events had gradually normalized as they all adjusted to their new dynamics. He'd accepted a position running Pinnacle's charitable foundation, bridging his roles in both Robert's and Emma's lives. The orchestra began playing a waltz, the same one that had been playing when Emma first approached Robert with her life-changing question. "May I have this dance?" Emma asked formally, extending her hand just as she had a year ago. "I would be honored," Robert replied, leading her to the dance floor. Emma no longer needed to count steps under her breath. They moved with practiced ease, having taken father-daughter dance lessons together for months in preparation for this night. "Remember when I surprised you here last year?" Emma asked, looking up at him. "How could I forget? You turned my whole life upside down." "For the better, right?" she prompted with a grin. "Infinitely better," he assured her. Across the room, Sarah watched them with Michael beside her. Robert caught her eye, and she smiled, a genuine smile that acknowledged how far they'd all come. Later, as Emma chatted with Dr. Martinez about her latest fundraising ideas, Sarah joined Robert by the refreshment table. "She's remarkably poised," Sarah observed. "Hard to believe this is the same girl who snuck out to find her father a year ago." "She gets that from you," Robert replied. "The determination, the courage." Sarah accepted the compliment with a nod. "We made quite a remarkable person between us, didn't we?" "We did," Robert agreed. Sarah about Michael's proposal. "I turned him down," she said quietly. "Last month." Robert's surprise must have shown on his face. "Not because of you," Sarah clarified quickly, "because I realized I've been defining myself as Emma's mother for so long that I've lost track of who Sarah is." And she glanced toward Michael, who was now laughing with Emma. "He understood. We're still friends." "And you're okay?" Robert asked. Sarah smiled. "I'm going back to school. Nurse practitioner program. Something I've wanted to do since Emma's diagnosis." "That's wonderful," Robert said sincerely. "You'll be excellent." "Emma's illness changed us all," Sarah observed, "made us re-evaluate what matters." Robert nodded, watching their daughter demonstrate a dance move to Michael. "I never thanked you properly for letting me be part of her life after everything." "You're her father," Sarah said simply. "That never changed, even when you were absent." The orchestra shifted to a new song, and Emma bounded back to them. "Dad, they're playing the father-daughter special dance. Come on." As Robert allowed himself to be pulled back to the dance floor, he caught sight of their reflection in the mirrored wall, so different from a year ago. Now, instead of shock and disbelief, his face showed something he hadn't expected to find again: contentment. "Dad," Emma said as they danced, "I have a question." "Another life-altering one?" he teased. "Maybe," she replied with surprising seriousness. "Do you think you and Mom will ever get back together, like as a couple?" "Mum," the question caught him off guard. "What makes you ask that?" Emma shrugged with attempted casualness. "Madison's parents got divorced and then remarried each other. She says it happens sometimes." Robert considered his answer carefully. "Your mom and I care about each other because we both love you. But sometimes people are better as friends and co-parents than as a couple." Emma nodded thoughtfully. "That makes sense. I just thought I'd ask." As the dance ended, Robert marveled at his daughter's continuing ability to surprise him with her perceptiveness and courage to ask difficult questions directly. Some things, it seemed, never changed. 2 years after Emma's bone marrow transplant, Robert stood in the backyard of Sarah's brownstone, helping Michael set up tables for Emma's 10th birthday party. The summer afternoon was perfect: clear skies, gentle breeze, and the excited chatter of children exploring the elaborate astronomy-themed decorations. "Emma said you're taking her to space camp next month," Michael commented as they unfolded chairs. "She's been counting down the days," Robert confirmed. "Apparently I'm in for a week of freeze-dried ice cream and zero-gravity simulations." Michael laughed. "Better you than me. I did my time at science camp last summer." Their relationship had evolved into a genuine friendship, the initial awkwardness giving way to mutual respect and shared commitment to Emma's happiness. Inside the house, Emma directed operations with characteristic precision, instructing her friends where to place gifts and which activities came first. At 10, she retained the directness that had first led her to approach Robert, now channeled into leadership roles at school and her continuing advocacy for pediatric cancer patients. Sarah emerged from the kitchen carrying a spectacular cake designed like the solar system, her nursing scrubs exchanged for a summer dress. The nurse practitioner program had been demanding but fulfilling, and she'd recently accepted a position at the same hospital where Emma had been treated. "The guest of honor requests your presence for cake," she informed Robert and Michael. Something about the astronomical significance of this exact moment. They gathered around as Emma explained the perfect alignment of Jupiter and Saturn, visible that night, the reason she'd insisted on an evening party despite Sarah's concerns about sugar-hyped children up past bedtime. "Make a wish, stargazer," Robert encouraged, as Emma prepared to blow out her candles. "I don't need to," she replied with a smile that illuminated her entire face. "I already got what I wished for." Later, after the party wound down and the last guests departed, the four of them, Robert, Sarah, Michael and Emma, sat on the back porch, watching as stars appeared in the darkening sky. "Which one is Jupiter again?" Michael asked, squinting upward. Emma pointed with exaggerated patience. "The bright one to the left of the moon, Saturn's fainter just beside it." Robert watched his daughter's animated explanation of celestial mechanics, marveling at how her fight for health had transformed into a passion for understanding the universe. The frightened child in the hospital bed seemed distant now, replaced by this vibrant, curious person on the cusp of adolescence. "I have something for you," he said, when Emma paused for breath. "An early birthday present." He handed her a small envelope. Inside was a letter confirming a donation to the Children's Hospital in Emma's name, funding for a new pediatric research initiative focused on rare blood disorders. "They're calling it the Emma Anderson Fellowship," he explained, "supporting young researchers working on treatments like the one that helped you." Emma's eyes widened. "Really? Like scientists will be doing research because of me?" "Because of you," Robert confirmed. "Your courage inspired a lot of people, Emma, including me." She launched herself into his arms with the spontaneous affection that still caught him by surprise sometimes. "Thank you, Dad." Sarah's eyes met Robert's over their daughter's head, sharing a moment of quiet acknowledgement of how far they'd all come. As Emma raced inside to show Michael her latest telescope modifications, Sarah moved to sit beside Robert. "You know what today is, besides her birthday?" she asked. Robert nodded. 3 years since she found me at the charity ball. "Best thing that ever happened to all of us," Sarah said softly, "though I wouldn't have believed it at the time." "Life has a way of surprising us," Robert agreed. They sat in companionable silence, watching the stars brighten against the deepening blue. The past 3 years had brought challenges, adjustments, and inevitable missteps as they learned to co-parent. But through it all, Emma had thrived, physically, emotionally, academically, surrounded by 3 adults who put her welfare above their own complicated histories. "She asked me yesterday if we'd ever tell her the full story," Sarah commented, "about why you left, about everything that happened before she was born." "What did you tell her?" "That when she's older, we'll explain everything together." Sarah glanced at him. "She deserves the whole truth eventually." Robert nodded. "When she's ready." He paused. "Do you ever wonder how different things might have been if I'd stayed? If I'd known about her from the beginning?" Sarah considered this. "Sometimes. But then we wouldn't be who we are now. And I think who we are now is exactly who Emma needs us to be." Inside, Emma's laughter rang out as she showed Michael something on her computer, probably the space camp itinerary she'd been meticulously planning. "You know what she told me last week?" Robert said. "That she's glad things happened the way they did. That if I'd been around all along, she might never have needed the bone marrow transplant that fixed her blood forever." Sarah smiled, though her eyes glistened slightly. "Leave it to Emma. to find the silver lining in everything. As the first stars fully emerged, Emma burst back onto the porch, telescope in hand. "Jupiter's visible! Come see!" They gathered around as she adjusted the focus, each taking turns to peer through the lens at the distant planet. Emma's enthusiasm was contagious, her joy complete in the presence of her unconventional but devoted family. Some journeys, Robert reflected as he watched his daughter name the visible stars, began with a simple question and led to destinations never imagined. 3 years ago, a brave little girl had asked him to dance. In doing so, she'd led him to the most meaningful role of his life, being her father. "Make a wish, Dad," Emma urged as a shooting star streaked across the sky. Robert smiled, his hand finding Sarah's in the darkness as Emma leaned against his shoulder. "I don't need to," he echoed his daughter's earlier words. "I already have everything I could wish for."